This is Let's Talk Tottenham, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking the players that Tottenham have been linked with over the course of roughly around a month. And today I'm going to be joined by Tom, as you can see in the little box. All right, so Tom, let's get this tier list going. So in this video, we've got 6 tiers. We've got the must-buy. So Tottenham just need to get them somewhere in order to start, I suppose, challenging, but really getting that top 4. Good value. Squad player, unnecessary, overpriced, and my favourite tier, just now, which I can imagine about half the players going in. So, Tom, the first player we've got is Max Aarons. Now, as you know, Tottenham have got Serge Aurier in right back. And it's safe to say Serge Aurier he makes too many mistakes, simply put. I mean, what do you think of Max Aarons as a player when he's played your team, Man City?
I think he's a great right back. I think it'd be a good value for Spurs. He'd be a good right back, and yeah.
Yeah, he's been linked to Bayern Munich as well recently. So Spurs really do need someone who's quite young and quality. Whenever he's played Spurs, he's showed up and looked a decent player. So I feel like he's good value because I've seen him rumoured about £20 million around that mark. Bayern Munich made an offer for around that. I can imagine us going to 25 max. But even at that value, I think he's a decent player. Would you agree with good value?
I agree with that.
Okay, good. Right, Gareth Bale. Now, obviously, this man, every Spurs fan wants to see Gareth Bale again, but he's just lost his hunger for football. I mean, it's simply put. Like, if you see him on the bench at Madrid, obviously the legendary Wales golf Madrid. That was a turning point, really. And now the sleeping mask thing on the bench. I mean, his appetite for football's gone. So I'm going to put him in between overpriced and just now. I suppose just now's got no quality, and I feel like if we got Gareth Bale, it's like 600k a week as well. I'm gonna put him in just now. What do you think about that? Do you think you should put him in overpriced?
I think he's a good player still, so I'd say overpriced, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I think just now is fair, just because of the fact that he's not really hungry to win, or not win, but to come back to Spurs and play football. He's happy just to sit on the bench at Madrid and play his golf. So I feel like just now Spurs can't afford 600 grand a week for a player when Harry Kane's on 250 is our highest paid, joint with Tanguy. So next player, I'm actually going to save these 3 for the end, just because of the recent news. These Inter Milan, not rejects, but Conte's fallen out with pretty much all of them except for Perisic. Okay, so next we've got Timothy Castagne. Tom, I don't know if you know much about Castagne, but I think he's a left back. He's a left mid on FIFA 20, so he's flexible. I think he plays 3 or 4 positions. He's recently just been dropped, which I think is noticeable. I think he's around the same value as Max Aarons, and I think he's slightly older. So really, that's giving me the indication of a squad player. I mean, he's not as good as the current Atalanta fullbacks. I think one's called Gosens, and the other one, I'm not even sure the other fullback is for Atalanta, but he's essentially the 3rd choice fullback. Where do you think you should put him? Squad player?
Do you think you need a left back desperately?
Well, he plays right back as well. He's more so a right back, I think, but he's flexible on both positions. I'd say we do need a left back. Well, maybe not a left back, but definitely a right back. So currently, we've got Serge Aurier on the right back. Tanganga can play there, but he's a centre back, so it's not his favourite position. And in left back, we've got Ben Davis, Dennis Serkin, who's a youngster who's just been moved to the first team, and then Ryan Sessegnon, who I think is going to go on loan. It seems like he'll go on loan just to develop because we're not playing him enough. Really, I'd say we need him just to challenge Serge, but I'd rather have Max Aarons. He's a better value and he's a better player, I'd say. So I'm gonna put Castagne in squad player, but he easily could be a good value. Depending, I don't know. I've not really watched him, to be honest. Next, we've got Phil Coutinho. I mean, there's a player out for. I'll let you have a word with Coutinho. What are you thinking of Coutinho?
I think he's a quality player.
Yeah.
Well, it depends if you think you need one like a Cam or.
He can play a winger as well, but he's not as comfortable in the left wing position. But then we've already got Dele Alli, and Gio Lo Celso, and there's other options on here who I think are better candidates for Cams. He's also quite expensive. I don't know how much he's on at Barcelona, but it's a lot more than Harry Kane. He is on a loan. I I think they were on about £11 million fee. But for a player that's not been wanted at either Bayern Munich or Barcelona, and he was rather inconsistent at Liverpool in the first place, I think he's past his prime, and his inconsistency is not good enough. So I'm going to put him in overpriced, just because he does offer you a little bit of squad quality, and he is a good player.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You agree with that? Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll go on to the next one. Now we go into the bargain basement of relegation players. We'll actually move Pierre there. Right. The first one, David Brooks. Now I've seen little amounts of this player. I think he plays an attacking midfielder. I think he may go on the wing at times. I'm not sure how much Bournemouth are looking for him. I think it's somewhere between. I think it's £20 million. That might be wrong though. £20 million. I personally think he'll be a. Well, we've got Sonny. I'm going to put him in unnecessary.
Okay.
Have you seen any of David Brooks, Tom?
No, not really.
No, I think he's been out of an injury all season. I don't think he's played for Bournemouth this season, or he hasn't since the start anyway. From what I've seen, he looks to be. He's young. He's a good talent. He's one of Bournemouth's best players. But I just feel like we've already got Son Heung-min, and we've got Bergwijn who can play on the left, and I suppose we've got Moore on the left. So we've already got enough wingers and attacking midfielders. We've got Dele and Gio. And are you telling me David Brooks is better than them? I don't think so. So I'm just going to put in unnecessary. Right. Next we've got Ryan Fraser. I'm going to put him in the just now. All right. Hear me out, Tom. He's going on a free. So we are able to obtain him. But I feel like his attitude and his treatment towards Bournemouth after his contract's run out has been pretty poor. He's said to Bournemouth that he's not extended like the contract for the end of the season, so he's refused to play for them because I feel like he thinks he's too good for Bournemouth. That's what I've heard. So I'm just thinking the attitude. Plus, I don't think he's that good of a player anyway. This season's been terrible. He looks out of form and looks rather trash right now. And are you telling me he's better than the current options we've already got, or the ones that are available on the bench? I don't think so. What do you think of Ryan Fraser, Tom?
Well, I think if you're looking at overpriced in that category, put Coutinho. I don't think he's as good as him.
Yeah.
So.
But I feel like Coutinho. I don't think Ryan Fraser is overpriced. Obviously, it's on his free transfer. He's cheap wages, but even then, he just. I don't think he offers as much as Coutinho. He's not the same caliber of player. He's a free transfer, but he's coming from a relegation side. And he's been out of form all season, and he's not been good enough to get in their team for however long he has been out. So I just feel like maybe just no. Like I don't want to see him at Tottenham. It doesn't excite me. Would you want to see him at your club? Probably not, because you've got better options, and I feel like we've got better options, just not as many. So I'm gonna say just no on Ryan. I mean, what do you think about Ryan? Like, would you agree with just no, or would you put him in unnecessary?
Originally, I was going to say unnecessary, but
Unnecessary. I suppose so, because I don't think he's going to cost much because he's obviously on his free. I don't know how much he's asking wage-wise, but I can't imagine it being more than 150,000. I'd say is probably his cap, but I don't think he's worth that. But that's the amount I can imagine him wanting. But I'm not too happy to have Rance really. I just don't think that the priorities for Spurs. Okay, the next one, Ben Godfrey. I'm tempted to put him in. If there's other rumours in this list that look to be more realistic, another centre back probably is the priority because obviously Jan Vertonghen's just left on a free transfer. So we've already got four centre backs. We've got Tanganga, Toby, Danton, and Eric Dyer. Now I feel like we need that fifth centre back, and the other options on the table. I don't know if they're better, but they're definitely considerations. I feel like Godfrey, if we signed him, would be a great squad player because he is quality. And I know Norwich's defence is quite leaking. We're linked with 3/4 of that. But as individuals, they're all really good players, and plus they're quite affordable. I've seen some ridiculous prices for Ben Godfrey quite a while ago, but I think he'd cost you about 25 million, 30 million at tops.
I think that's a fair price as well. So
yeah, he is young. I think he's 22, England international. Rio Ferdinand, I saw rated him highly. He was asking Man United to sign him. So I mean, if he saw something in him, then he must be average, not average. He must be decent. So I'm just gonna say I will put him in squad player because I'd be happy if he came through. I wouldn't be upset that we've bought him, or I wouldn't be like, well, he's just going to be a fourth choice. He can develop, so I feel like he's a good shout. And then Jamal Lewis, I'd say good value, or maybe squad player. Actually, maybe unnecessary. What do you think? We've got Ryan Sessegnon, we got Ben Davis, and we got one of our youngsters coming through the academy, in Dennis Sirkin. Jamal Lewis is a good player, and I rate Jamal Lewis. He looks decent every time I see him. I think he's a good player. He's young. I think he's 22. He's probably been I'd say Norwich's best defender this season. Definitely going forward. I feel like he offers more going forward than Ben Davis, but maybe defensively isn't as good, but not too far off. So I feel like he can definitely challenge for the first team opportunity. But then I feel like if we sign Jamal Lewis, Ryan Sessegnon's development is going to slow down. Dennis Sirkin's development is going to slow down. And you can't put him on loan forever because he's only 22. So I feel like it'd be slightly unnecessary. But yeah, I'm gonna say unnecessary, Tom. What do you think? Do you want to change that? Because he is quality.
I'm going to say squad player because he's young.
Yeah. I mean, I'd put him in squad player. It's just the fact that we've got so many good options already, and it will stunt the development. And obviously, we've seen with recent reports about Tanya and Dombele. I can imagine Ryan Sessegnon not being played and his price falling, and eventually we sell him if we don't have anything to do with him. I'm putting my money on Ryan Sessegnon getting much better whenever he goes out on loan. So I just feel like Jamal Lewis seems like an excess of cash. I feel like unnecessary, but I'm happy to put him in squad player just because he is quality and he would help the team currently. Yeah. And he's affordable as well. 20, 25 million, same as Aaron's, same as Godfrey. The whole defence is quite good. All right, so the next one, Højbjerg. This one's a must-buy. Must-buy. He's definitely the closest to being actually bought on this list. He's a defensive midfielder, and everything that he's good at, we need. He's great at breaking up the play, interceptions, tackling in the middle of the pitch, and creating a direct counter-attack that Tottenham Hotspur seem to be playing. With Jose Mourinho, we obviously soak up all the pressure from parking the bus, essentially, or dropping back a far line. So when we're trying to go forward, our main source of attack is just counter-attacking. And we're not getting the ball back from the midfield to do that without a proper defensive midfielder. And it's safe to say he's one of the best in the league at that. So everything he offers is really important. I think it's rumoured that we're offering £15 million. However, 3 or 4 clubs have been interested, and apparently they've offered more, around 25 million. So the deal's ongoing, so I'm not too sure how it's going to end up, but we need to get his services. He's also a leader as well. 24, captain of Southampton before he refused to sign his new contract for them. So he offers leadership as well. So I just feel like he offers all the qualities we need.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously I feel like Musa Sissoko, he doesn't offer the same skill set that we need. He's a proper DM, Højbjerg. So I feel like if we were to keep Tanguy on Dombele, and Gio Lo Celso is obviously going to be capped, I can imagine that on paper it sounds really good. Højbjerg and Dombele and Lo Celso, because it relieves Lo Celso and Dombele from doing defensive duties constantly. I mean, it gives them a bit more freedom. And obviously we know Giovanni Lo Celso, as a Spurs fan, if you give him the freedom, he'll create something because he really is a creative player. And Ndombele's physicality can't keep him going for really 45 minutes if he's running. So it just helps if we've got someone to help in that role in the defensive area. Anyway, are you agreeing with must buy?
Yeah, I agree with must buy.
All right. Obviously, Spurs need a backup striker because we know Harry Kane gets injured every single season just because of the amount of game time he gets. And his history of injuries is probably going to just build up over time. This is Llorente. All right, we all knew he went to Napoli last season, but I personally think I don't want to put him in just now because we do need a backup striker. So I don't want to put him on unnecessary either, but I don't really want to put him in the top 3 tiers because we've already had him and he's okay. He's not really great. I mean, he is a backup striker, so he is good enough. I'm just going to say just no. I mean, it sounds a bit. He's a good striker, but then he's a bit old, which isn't a problem because a lot of players in the youthful years don't want to be sitting on the bench for Harry Kane to get injured. So I feel like Llorente may be a shout, or I just don't feel like we should be looking back to players. It just shows one step down essentially. I feel. I mean, what are your views on Llorente?
I think he's a good player.
Well, he
Uh,
did dismantle City, so yeah, I think that was a heartfelt moment for Tom. I mean, you probably don't like Llorente for that, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I'd rather have a player like Callum Wilson who's further down the list for around the same price. He's a bit younger and he's already Premier League proven. He can score 10 to 20 goals a season, probably around the 20 digits. He's proved it. So I mean, I just feel like Llorente. I think he's definitely past coming back to Spurs. I mean, what I could put him. What do you reckon? Do you think he's more of a squad player than he is just now?
I think he's more unnecessary than just no.
Unnecessary. Well, the thing is, though, yeah, I can agree with that. But we do need a backup striker, so he's a better option than no backup striker. Just to feel like there's better options for around the same price on the market. So I feel like unnecessary probably justifies the fact that. So yeah, are we agreeing on unnecessary then? I'll agree to unnecessary.
Yeah, that's unnecessary.
Okay, we're both agreeing. Right, the next one. He's further up the line in the pecking order. It's Milik from Napoli. Report he's probably around £30 million or 30 million euros, so £25 million mark. He's definitely better player than Llorente. He's also younger at 26. I just feel like I'm going to put him here. He'd be a good squad player because good value, €30 million for a backup striker. It's not a good value, but you can't really get a better backup striker than Milik right now.
I think Milik is good. He's just a bit slow. I'm the
Yeah.
pairing with Kane as well. You need like a pacey striker. I put a squad player because he is good, but
Yeah. Yeah, he is quite. Actually, that's a good point. He is quite slow, and he doesn't really offer something that Harry Kane doesn't. I mean, he's about he's probably. I don't know whether I could say he's slower than Kane, but he's definitely around similar pace, and he hasn't got the same shooting quality. He's quite good at finding himself in space, but I don't feel like he's like. Obviously, he's great when Harry Kane's out, but if we want a tactical change because Harry Kane's not cutting it or not doing something right, you don't bring on Milik, who offers everything. Who offers, I suppose, everything Harry Kane does, but less. You don't really want that tactical changes. So I feel like squad player would be good because he obviously is a good player. But then the other thing is, it's hard. How I don't know how Spurs are going to convince a 26-year-old to sit on the bench. We'll obviously have to promise him more game time, and he's not a striker that can play on the wings or drop back. He's just a straight number 9. So it's almost impossible to get Milik because he won't be happy sitting on the bench in the prime years of his career.
Okay.
So he is needed though. So we should put him in squad player. I feel that's great. Now, Tom, the next one on the list, I already know you have no idea who this is.
No idea.
Kim Min Jae. He plays for Beijing Guan in the Chinese league, and this he's called the Monster. That's his nickname. He's South Korean, and he's being hailed as the greatest Asian centre back of the century. Now, I think South Korea are massive fans, and Beijing Guan don't want to sell him because he is very important to them. So I've heard that he's going to be around £20 million, like the other defenders in this list. Now, for commercial value alone, he's good value. I'm simply putting good value. And the fact is, he's young. He's 23. He's 6 foot. I don't know how tall he is. He's a big guy. So he's good. Apparently, they call him the South Korean Harry Maguire, but with pace. Or at least that's what I'm calling him. He's good in the air. He's good with the ball. And apparently, he's very good at tackling people. Now, I've seen some of these tackles, and he does look very good. I'm not saying I know who this player is because I've only watched about 10 minutes of his clips. But what I have seen, he does look good. But then it is the Chinese league. But there's some stars in there because I've seen him floor Hulk with ease. I've seen him smash Rondon to pieces, and Carrasco, he played Carrasco as well. He battled him pretty well, so he can handle good players.
Yeah. Okay, I also agree with that because I'm not much fan.
Tommy Mac just buffering, so I'll go on. Say what you said, Tom.
I'll agree with that because I don't know much about it.
Yeah. I mean, he is. I'm putting him in good value. So trust me, I have a feeling he'd be a great signing for Spurs. He feels kind of like a Spursy signing. All right, next on the list, Lucas Vazquez. He's done out here. Not happening. Don't want him. Another Real Madrid flop, essentially. He's down the pecking order, and he's going to cost around the same as Milik, I suppose. 20, 30 million. A rough that mark. He can play. He's a left and right winger, but I don't want him at Spurs. You know, I've not seen him play for a while, but he in his best days he was a good player, but don't want. I'm assuming he's getting close to his 30s if he isn't already. So I'm not interested in Vasquez. Have you seen much of Vasquez recently, Tom?
Nothing like at all, really.
No. It's because he's not getting the game time. He's clearly not good enough, and Zidane doesn't want to play him. He might. I don't actually know what the deal with Vasquez is. I don't know what the deal will look like. Obviously, no one does because it's not been done. But I don't want him at the club. He's just not what Spurs need, and he's not the priority either. We don't need another winger. Well, we may do, but we don't need someone like Vasquez. He's not offering anything new.
I agree.
Right, next guy. This is probably one of my favourite players on this list. If not the signing that I really like. I'm not going to put him in must buy because we've got other options, but he's definitely the player that I love seeing a Spurs shirt. And Tom, I don't know how much Championship football you've been watching or QPR. What I've seen of Eze, Everett Eze, that's who it is. Plays for Queen's Park Rangers, early 20s, if not 20, 21, somewhere around that mark. He's the best player in the Championship by a mile. I feel like he's just an improvement on what we've. Personally, what I'd like to see is Eze coming through. This is a massive risk and it won't happen. But what I'd love to see is Eze comes through and Dele Alli goes. Because Dele Alli, I just feel like they're similar types of players. You know, Eze's not really a creative midfielder, though, actually. It's just waffle now. Eze is really good at dribbling. He can dribble through teams. He's a good shooter, decent penalty taker as well. So if Harry Kane's not playing, we don't really have one of those. So he offers that. Uh, he's a good passer, I suppose, and I think he's quite good on set pieces. So he does offer some sort of. I want to say something new, but what he's good at, he'll definitely be the best in the team at. He's an absolute unit. He can dribble through a whole team, and for only £20 million as well.
Yeah, I think that's good value for him.
He is good value. He's definitely. I mean, have you watched him play or even his clips?
I'm watching play once or twice in African teams. He's been gone once or twice.
I just feel like he'd be. He's not really a high risk signing. He's £20 million, and the market's quite. I won't say quite. It is very low compared to what it is. Obviously, there's the financial crisis, which has lowered the prices down. But 20 million for Eze, he's definitely going to be. He's a big player coming up. I'm telling you. I rate Eze. Definitely one of my favourite players on this list. Opposite of Eze, Willian, and this is a typical Mourinho signing. A player in his mid-30s. Actually, I'm not going to say just now. Overpriced. He wants a 3-year deal, I believe, worth roughly around, or if not more than our top earning players. And for someone in his mid-30s who's likely just going to be a bench player, Now, he does offer defence. He's kind of like Luke Moore in the sense he will go back and defend pretty well, and he's got a bit of an engine on him. But his finishing product is around the same as Lucas Moura. However, Lucas Moura has improved recently. I just see him as a second Lucas Moura, essentially, who offers some slight difference in skill or what he offers. But I just feel like paying more than we are for any of our other players just to get him on a free. I don't think it's good value. I think it's a bit overpriced. I mean, we've already got essentially what he offers, and he's just an extra body having the team. I mean, you could say he's a squad player because he is a good player and he will offer us some extra attacking force in the front line. But I just don't think he's worth the price. I mean, would you pay 300,000 plus for Willie Anton to come to your club or any club?
No.
No,
He's so old.
he is too old. And you don't want to offer him a 3-year contract either. I just feel like he's past. I won't say he's past his best, but Chelsea fans, of what I've heard, they don't rate him in the sense he just doesn't have the finishing product. They like the fact that he's got a lot of energy and he works pretty hard on the ball and off the ball. But then apparently his crossing's pretty average, and his finishing, his end product isn't there. To be honest, to me that sounds like something you've already got. But he's very similar to Luke Moura in the sense that he does offer the same, he does have the same traits. And I feel like Luke Moura is younger, has better room to develop, and he's added end product to his game for a cheaper price. So I'm just going to say overpriced for Willian. Right, the next one, Callum Wilson, good value for me. He has got his own injury problems, like Harry Kane. His injury problems are worse. He can miss a large amount of the season out with an injury. The fact of the matter is he's still a quality striker and he can score around 20 goals a season. He plays the whole thing, and that's great for a backup striker. But the thing that makes Callum Wilson very good value is he's got a release clause for £10 million. You can get a striker who will score 20 goals a season for £10 million. The hardest bit about getting Callum Wilson, Tom, is the actual fact that I think he's 27 or 28, or maybe 26, around the same age as he's definitely around the age of Kane. Harry Kane being 27, but he just offers something. He's a slightly different striker than Kane, he's faster, so he offers something we haven't already got. I think he's got a bit of pace on the one of his main attributes, pace. He's a good dribbler. His end product's nowhere near as good as Harry Kane's because he'll take more chances to score. But then he does offer you something if off the bench, even when Kane's not. Even when Kane's fit, you can bring on Callum Wilson and he can change the game. Obviously, he's a decent finisher, but the thing is, he offers just something different, something tactically different. So if we're playing a defence with a dropped back line, Harry Kane should be a shout. But if they're playing a higher line, you can bring on someone like Callum Wilson and he'll absolutely tear through it because he is pacey and he is a decent finisher, I'd say. He's a good dribbler. Now, I'm just saying, for £10 million, he seems like a decent backup striker. I mean, what would you take? Imagine Aguero retires. Obviously, back in your boy Jesus. You probably need a backup striker. Would you get Callum Wilson for £10 million?
Yeah, I'll take Hamilton.
Take Callum Wilson. See, the thing is, he's so cheap. I mean, you could probably sign him a new contract, wait a year, play him rarely, and then sell him, and you make it probably about double your profit anyway because in just the value. That's obviously not including wages. Right, next man, Wilfried Zaha. I've seen this guy. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He can play on the wings. He can play on the wings and he can play in the middle. So he covers a few roles he covers the backup striker role. He covers an additional winger role, so he can play when Harry's playing. However, £70 million, Tom, to get Wilfried Zaha. And the reason that's probably the case is they want 50 million for him, but then they've added an extra 20 million on because in Zaha's release clause, I think Man United get 25%, of the sell-on fee. So then Crystal Palace are adding the sell-on fee onto his original value. So it's got to 70 million. And for Zaha, I just think that's I'd say that's out of his value. I'm not paying 70 million for Zaha. When think about who can you get for 70 million, Tom? Like, who would you say? In this list, I could buy Højbjerg for 25, Max Aarons, we'll say for 25, just to round it up, and then Eze. I can get all three of the players there. Actually, let's think about this. I can buy the whole value tier list. 20 for Eze, 20 for Aarons, 20 for Kim and James, 10 for Wilson. That's 70 million. Who would you rather have, those four players or Wilfried Zaha?
Yeah, true.
A position where we don't really need those four players sign every problem we've got. I'd be happy, except from the holding midfielder, which is Højbjerg. If we signed our top 5 players, we're basically solving all our problems with 5 players. And for these are the 5 players to solve our problems. We need a backup striker. We need an additional centre back if Jan's leaving. We need a backup right back, obviously he's going to be the first team right back. So Serge will probably get dropped. Eze is just class, and Højbjerg, which we need for the whole midfielder. That's you can pretty much get 4 out of 5 for the price of Zaha. I know what I'd rather have, and I think that justifies why I'm putting him in the overpriced. Unless you disagree, I mean, oil money's 70 million for City's not too bad, but you're making good business. I've seen you're buying Ferran Torres, is it, for 20 million odd? That's a good deal. I've not watched much of Torres, but he's a good player. Nathan Ake. Have you seen Nathan Ake? 40 million. I think would you say that's overpriced? 40 million for Ake? Or do you think that's good value?
I think maybe overpriced. Well, he's still a player and he can do well.
Well, actually, is he though? I mean, maybe because he's just been relegated. For a relegation player, you'd probably say so. You can get Callum Wilson for 10, Aarons for 20. But Nathan Ake is a good player. Yeah. I mean, that's around the same price we paid for Sanchez. Could you argue that Ake is equally as good as Sanchez? I could imagine so. But anyway, I just feel like Zaha's overpriced. For what if we say we've got a budget of 100 million, Zaha takes up 70% of that on his own, and then we're left with 30 million to buy 3 or 4 positions. It's just not realistic. The next one, Zaniolo. Now I tell you, this guy's a must buy. This guy's also a must buy because this guy offers. He's young. Obviously, he's young. He can play in the wing. He's an attacking midfielder mainly. I can imagine him going forward in strike. He scored a wonder goal not too long ago. I think it was this week, or maybe the end of last week. Great player. The only problem with Zaniolo, roughly we're offering around 50 million, but Fabrizio Romano is very credible. He's probably the most credible journalist / football reporter, I'd say, in world football, or at least European football. He said that Roma will not sell Zaniolo for anything because they don't want to sell him. So he's practically just no because we just can't sign him. But Zaniolo's quality and his age, I'd say he's a must buy.
I'd say good value or must buy.
You could say he's good value because would you say 50 million's a lot for a 70 million for Zaha is overpriced. 50 million for Zaha, I'd say it's overpriced because I think Zaniolo's a better player than Zaha. They don't play in the same position, but I rate Zaniolo. I think he's a good player. But the thing is though, also if we get Zaniolo, we could sell a player like Dele Alli, and it practically counteracts. I've seen Dele Alli's market value of 60 million. It's probably some made up number, but if you could get rid of Dele Alli and get Zaniolo, I'd be happy. Obviously, Dele's a great player, but the main problem with Dele is his consistency. The only worry I'd say with Zaniolo is the fact that he's very similar to he's very similar body type to Eric Lamela. Now Eric Lamela came from Roma before, and when you look at Lamela's highlights and Zaniolo's highlights, I know it's based off highlights, not the full player. The similarities are very similar. and now we've had Lamella for around 7 years. We've not seen much quality out of Lamella, to be honest. I mean, we probably have seen moments over 7 years, but he's never become a very solid player. And the main worry is what happens if we sign anyone? Does he adapt to the league? I mean, there's no point. I'm waffling on now because we're not signing this player because Roma won't sell him. So I think do you want to just skip and agree that he's a must-buy if you can? Okay. The next three players on the list are all to do mainly with one player, and if you've seen the news, our record signing in Bailey, who we signed last summer from Lille for £55 million or roughly around that, we're in negotiations with Inter Milan, and Inter Milan want Ndombele for their midfield. And apparently, Daniel Levy or whoever's in charge of negotiations right now is willing to drop the valuation of £55 million to a rough estimate of £45 million in order to sell Ndombele to get a bit of cash. Now, Inter Milan have said that they can't afford the £45 million, but they're interested in a swap deal. And what they've offered us, I'm not too sure how it works, obviously the negotiations are there, but the three players they've offered us on the table are these three players on the list. We've got Brozovic, Milan, I think he's 27, he's a defensive midfielder. He seems like he's a good player. We've got Skriniar, 26-year-old centre-back. He's a top defender. He was linked with Man City for a while, wasn't
he? Yeah, I think so. He might
Do you know what foot he is? Is he a left-sided centre back or a right-sided centre back? I assume he's a left-sided centre back.
Or I don't know.
He'll probably play them both, to be honest. He is a class player. And then the final one's Perisic, who's 31. He's had a failed loan spell essentially at Bayern Munich. He's a good player, but would have wanted to come to Spurs, not at his age, which seems a bit ageist. But I don't rate him as a player. Like, he doesn't excite me. Now, I feel like to get a deal done with Ndombele, obviously the value is £45 million. I've seen valuations of Skriniar for £60 million, and I don't think the other two even come close. Like, how much? Have you seen how much Brozovic is?
No idea.
I mean, Perisic is roughly around the same value as Lamella, for about 10-15 million, because of the type of player he is and the fact that he's 31, and I think he's in his last year of contract as well. So Brozovic, I'm not interested. He's a Jose Mourinho signing from 5 years ago when he's back in his prime. Now he's past it. In my opinion, we don't want Brozovic. We can't lose a midfielder and gain essentially an attacking midfielder winger because we need someone to recover the place. That's the problem with this. None of them are really in Ndombele's type of position. They're all different types of players. The closest thing to Ndombele is Brozovic. I'm saying that Brozovic is not. I'd say he's a squad player, but I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's a fair deal. I mean, unless Perisic and Brozovic together for Ndombele, I don't want that. Ndombele's got too much class and talent. Just because he's had a rough season, he shouldn't be willing to get some Inter Milan rejects, essentially. I mean, the only one I'd consider swapping is for Skriniar. Now, Tom, I know. I mean, what would you rate Skriniar in terms of Spurs' current defenders from an outside look? Do you think he's better than? Well, I'd say Spurs' best defender is Toby Alderweireld. How would you say Skriniar compares to Toby Alderweireld? Or actually, we'll compare him to Jan Vertonghen. Like, he definitely gets an offense team.
I think Skriniar is a good centre back. I think he develops Spurs. So it's the play you need, really.
Right. Not gonna lie, I didn't hear half the words. I'm hoping the recording's good. Otherwise, a lot of it's gonna get edited and cut out. But I personally think he's definitely a first team player. But my only concern there's two concerns for getting Skriniar and Ndombele. One is we've lost a midfielder and we've gained a defender. and we know Spurs don't. We've probably got a low budget because we've lost 200 million in revenue. Now, what the hell happens in replacing Ndombele? What the hell do we get? If we're getting Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and that's it, that would be so disappointing. Even if we got Skriniar. The only reason I'm considering we even selling Ndombele is because of the fact that Mourinho isn't. He's not a Mourinho player anyway. But the fact that they're not getting along at all, and allegedly Ndombele said he never wants to play under Mourinho again. That just makes me think attitude. We need to get rid of Ndombele, and if we can get a player like Skriniar, who's a young, was I say young? He's young for centre back. He's a quality player. I mean, Skriniar's a quality player. Do I see him come to Spurs? You know what? I think I do. Now I'm saying he's a good value. But if I had the choice to give Ndombele a second, I'm like, I don't know. Tom, do you reckon Ndombele could ever kind of resolve the issue with Mourinho, or do you reckon it's just set and done? It's over.
I think settle now.
You sell him now? Yeah. I mean, I don't see him playing much next season, if I'm going to be honest. I think Mourinho wants to play a 4-3-3. I think that's what he does. And a 4-4-2 as well. He likes the 4-4-2. He only really fits in a 4-2-3-1 because we've got players he needs. He's got the holding midfielder he wants. He's got the attacking midfielder in Lo Celso. And then he's probably got someone like Sissoko or I don't even know. It's worrying actually, because that's where I think Ndombele would slide, but it doesn't work in Mourinho's type of football system. He hasn't got the work right. I just feel like Mourinho and Ndombele just clash. He's a Pochettino player. That's what I mean. Having Pochettino in the summer and then get sacked after the transfer market, essentially, I just feel like Mourinho wasn't a fit for a lot of the players, for Ndombele especially. He wasn't a fit. So now we're looking at getting rid of him. And I feel like if we can get Skriniar, he's worth about the same as Ndombele when he was at his best. They were both around 60 million. And if we can somehow, and obviously if you guys don't know, the reason Skriniar's even up for sale or being offered is, and the same thing with Mourinho, such as Ndombele, is Conte and Brozovic and Skriniar. He's falling out with both of them. And Perisic is obviously a Mourinho favourite, a fan favourite of Mourinho's. He absolutely loves him. I don't see what he sees, but Skriniar, if we can get Skriniar, I feel that's a decent trade, but we need to invest in a midfielder. I'd say we need someone that's not even on this list. So Tom, obviously as a City fan, when you look at these Tottenham Hotspur transfers or the players we've been looking at over the course of a month or two, what do you actually think? Like, would you like what players in this list would you actually like at City because of the quality of the player? Because I can almost imagine none or a couple.
I'll take Skriniar, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Daniel's a shout. Actually, no, she's got Foden and De Bruyne, I suppose.
I still think anyway.
Yeah, he never got that. Brozovic? Maybe you take Brozovic.
Yeah, maybe.
You don't really have a whole. I mean, you got Fernandinho, but he's getting quite old and he's slowing down a bit. I mean, you could probably do with another defensive. Actually, you got Rodri. I mean, where would you compare Brozovic and Rodri? Like, what level do you see? Like, do you reckon they're at the same level, or do you reckon Rodri's better than Brozovic, or Brozovic is better than Rodri? I mean, personally, I'm seeing around the same level, if not Rodri's slightly better.
They're at the same level. I think Rodri's got.
Thing is, I was when I first thought about Brozovic, he looks like a bit of an older bloke, but I thought he must be in his young 20s because I've only really just seen his name thrown in the equation for the last couple of seasons, really. Before that, but he's 27. I mean, I thought if he would have been 22, 23, I would have seen, oh yes, room for development. That's a good deal. But 27, he's not really, he's not top 5 defensive mids in the world. And Ndombele has the potential to become one of the best centre mids in the world. I just think Skriniar or money or no deal. I mean, preferably no deal if we sort the issue out, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be. So I'd say the best option for Spurs right now is get Skriniar. But then the main other problem with getting Skriniar, Tom, is I don't see Kim and Jay coming through the door if Skriniar comes through. I don't see Godfrey coming through the door if Skriniar. Actually, I'm not too bothered about Godfrey, but Kim and Jay, that'd be a big loss because I'm telling you now, he's something special. Or from at least what I can't actually say that because I don't watch him, but from what I've seen of him, he looks to be a great player. And what I've heard of him, he looks to be a great player. I to be honest, Tom, I'm not gonna lie. I think the quality of these transfers is disappointing.
Yeah.
Like the player I'd be most excited. There's two players I'd be most excited to see come through Spurs. I mean, if Skriniar was a cash deal and we paid for him and we kept him on there, I'd be excited to see Skriniar come through. But the two players that actually want to, actually I think three players. I'd like to see Max Adams come through. He's an interesting prospect. I'd like to see Eze come through. Once again, a young English interesting prospect. And Zaniolo. He's quality. He is a good player. And maybe Kim and Jay as well. I'd be happy to see him come through. The rest of them, I'm not too happy. Even if we signed any of them, would I be excited? Not really. I mean, obviously we need players like Højbjerg, but they don't have that extra quality that you really want. I mean, who would you say the biggest player you're linked with is? Because obviously you're very close with Ake, so I suppose defender links will stop coming through.
Ferran Torres.
Yeah, I think he's a done deal. I mean, the thing with Man City is your targets become realities because you just pay for them. With Spurs, we go, oh, we'd love to get Højbjerg, and then Daniel Levy's like, oh, there's £25 million offers. I think we value him at £15 million, and Højbjerg's holding on for us, and then Daniel Levy's offering £15 million. And then he wants to sweeten the deal with Kyle Walker-Peters. It's a bit of a joke, really. I feel like 25 million for Højbjerg, and then we do a different deal. Southampton don't do the same deal. Anyway, I think we should wrap this up now, Tom, because we're getting on. But this was our player rankings for Spurs. Obviously, me and Tom haven't seen all these players play. We're not all league watchers of all leagues, you know. We don't, as much as I'd like to say I'd watch the Chinese league, I just don't. If you guys differ with me and Tom, make sure to comment down in the comment section whether and also tell me what do you think about Tanguy Ndombele going out of the door, and then what do you think would be a good deal for Ndombele if we had to sell him, like it looks like we will be doing.